Hey Minecraft viewers, I am back today with another episode of Minecraft. Now before I introduce my guest to you today, I have a little story for you. Have you ever looked at a card and felt like this is not a card? This is a work of art that has jumped off the wall of an art gallery and become a card. I felt absolutely the same way when I first saw a card made by my guest today. I could not believe it was a card. And then when I saw on her blog that she has made the card using, almost the same supplies that I can find in my craft room, I was so amazed. I was like, I really need to get her on Minecraft right now. So I did, and she is here with us today. Today we have with us Mayuri. Hey Mayuri.
Hi.
All right. So, you're better known in the craft world as Flooby-Doo, and as you saw on my introduction, you have the most amazing cards that don't look like cards. So I'm going to start with asking you, how did you get this nickname?
It's a really strange one, actually. It's just a nickname that my partner has for me, and we regularly change each other's nicknames, but that's the one that seems to have stuck with me, and I found that it was the most unusual and easy, I suppose, not only for me to remember, but also to be remembered amongst the craft community as well.
Absolutely.
I wanted something unique that was short, that I could have as a Twitter handle, that I could have as a Facebook name, and all sorts of different things.
It matches, it's something very memorable, and I think everyone knows you by it, so you succeeded in that.
Thank you.
Awesome. So your blog is called Candles in the Garden. That is another name I would like to know the history of. Why did you choose that one?
Okay. Well, that one's slightly more personal. Like, say, 4 years ago, we bought the house that I'm in at the moment. And one of the reasons why we did was because it had a fabulous garden. Okay. I'm not much of a gardener myself, but my partner is. And we've got 4... fruit trees at the bottom of the garden, and I absolutely love hanging candles from the garden, from the trees, all the different beautiful Moroccan lanterns and all that sort of thing. And one evening we were just doing that, and we were just like, well, if you did a blog, if you did this, what would you call it? And I was like, God, I'm really bad at things like that, because I don't want it to be like Mayuri's cards or something like that, because people find it hard to remember my name in itself anyway. So I thought, well, this is really good, isn't it? We like candles, we like the garden. Why not just put candles in the garden then?
Wow, that's a nice story behind the name. So you spend a lot of time in the garden under the fruit trees then?
Well, when it's really nice weather, which today unfortunately it's not, but when the summer comes around, it's amazing. We get a lot of sun. The trees always give us a lot of fruit.
What fruit trees are they?
We've got 3 pear trees and 2 apple trees.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. So a lot of jam making goes on in the summer.
Oh, nice. So I guess that leads to the next question about, what are your other hobbies? Looks like jam making is one.
Well, I like cooking, and I suppose like the crafty side of me, the food making side of me came from my mum as well. And I don't know, being Indian and everything, you just get taught to cook, and that's one of the things. If I wasn't making cards, I would make food. I like doing sweet, I like doing savoury, and also it's not just, I find that sometimes you need to take a break from crafting as well, because otherwise you can burn out. And so sometimes it's just like, I spend a lot of time on Pinterest. I know it's really sad, but I do that as well.
I won't tell anyone, but I do that too. It's a great place to get inspired, and not just for cards, like you said, for a lot of other things. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find that actually I kill a lot of time doing that. And so, it's like a hobby in itself,
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting inspired, I would say, is part of the hobby for sure. So, cooking then, huh? What's your favorite dish?
I like experimenting with lots of different things, but I'd have to say that Thai was probably a favourite of mine. Cool. I like Indian food, but I was brought up on it, so don't like eating it a lot. unless it's my mum's, of course, because nothing then beats that, obviously. But other than that, I like experimenting with lots of different types of food.
Very nice, very cool. I hope you will share some recipes with us.
I can try.
All right. So, what was the first crafty thing you made, and how did you get started into crafting? And I'm sure your style has probably evolved and changed over the years. So, how do you think it has?
It's funny you say that, actually. I think my style has probably changed in the last year.
Really?
Because I don't think I really had one until I started to hone it a little bit. So many years ago, to answer your first question, I think my first crafty experience was probably trying to knit my very first scarf, which was about that long, and it was just the same old stitch again and again and again, and it got very repetitive, but it was one of the first things that I successfully made, and I was able to go, I made this, and I suppose the gene kind of set in for me then from my mum. So I owe a lot of it actually to her. And from there, I suppose I liked making cards for people. I liked doing anything that was creative. And often she would say to me as well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And then work kind of got in the way. So I studied art. I did a degree in art. I did all of that. And then I ended up working in a design agency, and then became an account manager. So all that creativity kind of stopped, and I wanted to get it back again. And so last year I thought to myself, I've seen all these challenges and I've seen all these wonderful cards that people make, and I'd love to do it. And then I thought, sod it, and I just did it, and I just entered the first challenge I entered was the runway inspired one,
Wow, you aimed big, and we are glad you got into organized card making, and you're sharing your inspirations. So that's really, really awesome. And speaking about the cards themselves, as you heard in my introduction, how I felt about your cards. I think they're so unique, and so it looks like each of them must have taken a ton of time to make. So how long do you take to make each card, and how does your process start?
I have lots of sketchbooks around me, and lots of scrap bits of paper around me. So if I've got a pen and if I've got an idea in my head, I will always sort of sketch it out first. Sometimes the idea is already in my head, sometimes it isn't, sometimes just the idea of something is in my head and I need to expand it, in which case I'll go back to Pinterest. And I'll look at what other people have done. Say, for example, it's a stamp set that I need to work with and I'm struggling. I'll often look to see what other people have done, and it sets ideas going. But a card can take anywhere from a couple of hours, sometimes half an hour, but anywhere up to 4 hours. But I don't set out to be like that. Do you know what I mean? It's really interesting, because I never actually understood until recently that every card is actually like a small canvas.
Right.
And I think that's how the crafting community treats their own cards as well. It's like a small canvas and you pour your heart out onto it, don't you?
Absolutely, yes. That's a great way of looking at it, and your canvases are awesome.
Thank you.
So where does the inspiration come from for your cards? I think you mentioned it looks like Pinterest is a great place for it, and then what other people created as well. Are there any unusual sources of inspiration for you?
I suppose I really do try and dig deep back to when I was at school studying art, and when I was at uni doing all the wonderful experimenting with paint, with photography, with everything, and I try and go back to those times, because I think those were the times that I had the most fun and was able to be as expressive as I could. So I'd like my card making style almost reflects the fact that if I need to be clean and simple, I can do that because I've got the graphic design background behind me, but I've also got the arty side behind me, where I used to paint when I was at school, And I used to like, I don't mind if my fingers get dirty from paint and ink and stuff like that. And I find that sometimes that's when you can be most expressive, when you don't worry, when you let go.
That's a really cool thought. And you went to school for this stuff, so that obviously explains why you have such a unique and awesome style of making cards.
Yeah, I'm just so surprised though that sometimes I think, oh, I wish I was at school now, because I could just go to any craft store and pick up a wide variety of supplies to do the things I was doing back then so much easier now,
Very
I mean,
nice.
distressings have like saved my life,
Yes, certainly. It looks like supplies evolving and having better things, better tools to work with makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
I the first time, like when I got Copic markers, for example, I was like, oh, this is so much easier to shade with them than try and do the shading effect myself with watercolors. So yeah, definitely, it's very useful.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you do when you're not crafting in general. Like I would like to imagine that you're crafting all day, but what do you do?
Well, most of the time it's work. Work takes up quite a lot.
No, work comes in the middle of all crafting.
Yeah, it does, and I find actually that because I feel like I've had a tiring day at work, and sometimes the last thing I want to do is craft because I feel like I'm just completely zonked out, and I feel like I'm fresher in the mornings or on the weekends, and I get a lot of work done actually on the weekends. So I suppose in the evenings when I'm home from work, it's downtime. I could be just catching up on Facebook. I could just be catching up with emails or other little bits, or writing up my blog posts and things like that. Just small things to sort of help my weekend stay clear, just for crafting. There's a lot for me at the moment. My brother's getting married in a couple of months'
congrats to him.
Yeah, so that's quite big for us, and I'm doing the wedding invitations, and so there's a lot that I've got to think about on the weekends as well.
Wow, you're doing the wedding invitations, so how many a day?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm doing those for him as well, and it's I haven't done wedding invitations for a long time. I used to do those back 8 years ago. I think I did some, but even then it was with things like brass stencils and stuff like that, and I'm thinking it's changed so much now, the things that you can do.
It's still going to be a large number, looks like. How many are you making?
Well, thankfully it's not in the thousands, which I don't know
That is
about
not much of a comfort if it's in the hundreds.
Yeah, thankfully it's only 300, I think.
Are you making a different design for each one, or is it?
Oh God, no. Can you imagine? No, I'm designing it, and just I've got a lot of input in terms of the way it looks. But at the end of the day, it'll be up to him and his wife to be as to colours and things like that. But it's nice to be doing that again, because that's what I studied to do. I studied to do graphic design, and my day job just doesn't let me do as much of it anymore. That's all.
That's really great to use your creativity for avenues like that.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely.
All right. So this interview is incomplete without a rapid fire round. This is a little bit scary part of the interview, but you'll do fine. What I'm going to do is ask you questions, and you will respond super fast. There's no time to think. Okay. So, do you want to get started, or do you want to take a deep breath first?
Go.
Okay. All right. If you were stranded on a desert island, which 3 crafty supplies would you wish for?
Bone folder, 1 colour of distress ink, and probably some cardstock.
Which 1 colour?
I really like festive berries at the moment.
Okay. That probably changes depending on when you get stranded.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Favorite breakfast item?
Cup of tea.
All right. I can tell that you are a tea person.
Yeah, it's only because I only have 1 cup of tea a day, and that's it.
And no coffee at all? Not
I
a
don't.
coffee?
I'm not a coffee drinker. No.
Oh, we should chat more often. I'll make you a coffee drinker. All right. First word you think of when I say music.
Loud.
Photo.
Shop. As in Photoshop.
Okay. Sport.
Say that again.
Sport. Sports. What
Oh,
sport do you like?
don't like.
Don't like?
Don't
Okay.
like sports.
All right. That's fair game. Strike 3 poses for the camera.
Okay. Hello.
Okay.
Okay, next one. Thinking.
Okay.
Oh gosh, this is really hard. Hello.
All right. That does it. Thank you. All right. So now, since this is Ironcraft, it was my time to get crafty with you, and we both crafted using the same ingredients. Our ingredients today were 2 sets from Neat and Tangled, because Mayuri is on the design team of Neat and Tangled. The first set was this one, the Sparkle and Shine set. And the second one is this one, the Sunburst set. So we use both of these to craft a card, each of us. And do you have your card ready?
I do.
All right, 3, 2, 1, there. Oh my. All right, let's talk about yours.
No, let's talk about yours first.
Oh, okay. So my style is definitely different from yours, and I had the hardest time actually thinking about what to make in Mayuri's style. And I'll actually show you my first attempt. So this was my first
I
attempt.
love that. I
I
love
tried
that.
to do this using the same technique you did on one of your cards. But once I made this panel, I had absolutely no idea how to put it on a card and what happens to it. So
Sure.
then I just kept it aside. I'll probably use it on another card. And I was like, what would Mayuri do? And what words am I thinking of when I think of a style? So I got 2 words. One was dramatic. It's a very dramatic style, and you want to make a statement on the card. And the second one was just clean and layered and like very nicely done. So I went with doing this.
That's
and
beautiful.
really carefully got this line, and then this is the Delicata ink.
Yeah, I love that. It looks really good.
I know, and it stamps so clearly. Like, I was so surprised how crisp it looked in stamps.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. I like what you've done. I like the way that you've positioned obviously the sun rays in 2 different ways. I never thought about doing that, because I think there's so much versatility in a stamp like that, but sometimes you have to think really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. It did take a few tries to, kind of get the positioning and everything right. So let's talk about your card.
Okay.
Give it to me again.
So I went for clean and simple for this one.
Very nice.
And I've used the Sunburst stamp quite a lot recently, and I thought, okay, I know Danielle always says, you need to showcase the stamp set itself, and because we're using a couple, I thought, well, I really like the way the sun rays appear from behind like an aperture, and the aperture can be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be a butterfly, but I could put anything. I could put a circle on there, I could put a square on there, and that sun ray stamp would look amazing. It doesn't matter what you do with it.
Right.
So I stamped it again with Distress inks. It's darker in the middle there, and it sort of shoots out to like the pink. And in between, it's like coloured in with like silver Wink of Stella.
Oh, very nice. I see a little bit of the glitter. We'll have better pictures on the Ironcraft post, but that looks so amazing. That's another very different use of the set.
Yeah, and it's
I'm gonna copy it for the card I make with this one.
Yeah, exactly. But that's all it is. And I stamped the stars from the Sparkle and Shine set around it. And again, it's got tiny bits of Wink of Stella on there as well.
Nice.
And then I kind of stopped there. I mean, I could have kept going, and knowing me, I probably would have. But I think there's a point that you get to.
Is the hardest thing than walking away from the card? Like,
yeah, and your inner voice says to you, oh, you know. And that's what I came up with.
Very nice. We came up with really different ones, a black and white one. Yeah, that's awesome. It's my first time doing a black card base at all. I didn't even know that I had a black card base. So you inspired me to go like out of my comfort zone totally.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. I do find actually that some stamp sets do make you go outside of your comfort zone, and I think sometimes they're the ones that can be the most, you know, you get the most satisfaction from, because you think, I really struggled with that, but I really like the way it's turned out.
Absolutely, that you got through it and then pushed yourself forward. Very nice. All right, so now it's time to talk about the giveaway for today. We have a $20 gift certificate from Neat and Tangle. Thank you, Daniel, for sponsoring our giveaway today. And one lucky winner can get this. All you have to do is go to the Ironcraft post and answer this question that Mayuri has for us. So what's the question?
My question is, where do you find your source of inspiration from?
Please tell us in the comments what your source of inspiration is. Bonus points for Pinterest, I think.
Yeah.
But definitely, you know, the more sources of inspiration everyone has, I think it'll help, in general, everyone to know some new sources of inspiration.
Yeah.
So go for it. Tell us what your source is. And Ironcraft viewers, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Thank you, Mayuri, for joining in for this episode as well. And
thank you for inviting me.
Next time. Thank you.